Hello, my name is Rainey. This is my year reading wrap up. This is everything that I've read this year. I read 51 books in 2022. I have been anticipating this video. I've been excited to film it. I already know it's going to be a lot to film. I know it's going to be a lot to edit. And so I'm going to get right into it. But before we get into all the books I read, we're going to go through my stats on StoryGraph, which you can follow me on. So for 2022, as I said, I read 51 books. My mood map, obviously you can see that towards the end of the year, I started reading a little bit darker stuff, nothing crazy. It says you felt all the feels, kept it light, and laughed a lot. And that is so true. I read the most books in October. I read 7 books in October. To no one's surprise, my most read genres were romance and contemporary. The most time spent on a book was 61 days for From Blood and Ash, and that just simply checks out. My average rating for 2022 was a 4.27. That's crazy. That's really good. I actually had a great reading year. Okay, with all that being said, let's get into all the books that I read and their ratings and whatnot. The first book I read was Reflections of the Mole. It was a 5-star read, but this is the most niche read, and it is just an obsession among me and my sister. And spoiler alert, the author of the book was the mole for the 2nd season, which is my favorite season. Yeah, and this is the story of his life, the events leading up to the mole, his time on the mole. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then this book is not for you. But if you do, you will enjoy this book. I loved it. Next, going from something super niche to something super mainstream, I read We Were Liars. I hated this book. It was fine, like the plot was good, it was written well, but I did not like the way it made me feel. It made me feel gross and yucky. I didn't like, I'm trying not to spoil things, but there's a big event, and the way that the big event was described, I didn't like it. It made me feel gross. And this is marketed as a YA book, and if I read that as a teenager, I would have been disturbed for a little while. So that one got 3 stars because it was a good book, but it just wasn't for me. So moving on. The first one I actually have physically with me. She's gonna sit right back there. This is Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins. She's a writer, and she goes to this island where her parents, I think, met and fell in love, and she ends up swapping suitcases with this guy, and she's like, oh my gosh, he's the perfect guy. I have to find him. We're meant to be. Things don't go as you would expect, but it's a cute romance. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars, I think. I gave it 4 stars. My next book is Court from the Crave series. It is the 4th in the series. I actually have my copy signed by Tracy Wolff. It says, "To Rainey, you're the best. Heart, Tracy Wolff." So it's very special to me. It's about 700 pages. I think it's the longest book I read this year. If not, then the 5th book in this series is the longest that I read this year. Yeah, I can't really say much about it considering it's the 4th in a series, but if you know, you know, and if you don't, then you need to read the Crave series. I gave this 4.75 stars. It's really good. It was like one of my favorite books of the year, but I want to save the 5 stars for my favorite book in this series. Like, I only want one book in this series to have 5 stars. Why? I don't know. That's just how my brain works. And my favorite book in this series is the 3rd book, so it's my 5 stars. So this is like 4.8, but pretty close to 5. Next is my sweet little angel baby, The Dinner List by Rebecca Searle. I think this is my favorite book of the year. I love this book. No one will ever change my mind. It made me sob hysterically. I love it so much. You've probably heard me talk about it a billion times. It was easily 5 stars. Moving on. Next we had The Love Hypothesis. I read this in a physical book, but My sister has it, I believe. This book was fine. It's about this grad student and one of the professors. They end up doing this whole fake dating scenario. It is good for what it is. It got really, really big on TikTok, and I don't think it's like the #1 romance book of the year or anything. I don't think it was anything groundbreaking, but it was a romance book, and I liked it. Next, I read The Paris Apartment, which I also read physically through Book of the Month, but I don't have that book either. I think my friend Abby has it, but that's okay. I just have loaned out every book I own, apparently. This was really good. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's just suspenseful the whole time. I liked it. It wasn't like, again, it wasn't like a groundbreaking book, but I enjoyed my time with it. Next is The Upside of Falling, which I actually borrowed from my sister, so she has it. Hey! The Upside of Falling by Alex Light. This was a cute, quick YA, like very young YA romance. They were in high school. I don't remember much about it, if I'm honest. There were some cute scenes. It was just like light and refreshing and a good, you know, like filler between books. I gave it 3.75 because I wasn't like super invested. The next book is Until I Met You, and this was the first book that I tabbed of the year. A Christian romance. I liked this book. It was good. I liked the religious themes. I liked the romance. I liked the small town feel and like the drama and stuff they went through. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Next we have One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I tabbed this too. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars, and I liked it a lot. Moving on. Next I read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is another highly hyped up romance book on TikTok. I really liked the banter of this. I felt like I was in the sun the entire time I was reading it because it was just this tropical feel. I liked it. I thought it was really cute. I gave it 4 stars. Next I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It is going to be like a cardinal booktube sin to say that I didn't give this 5 stars, but I didn't give this 5 stars. I gave it 4.5. There's no denying that it is a great book. It's just not one of my 5-star reads for me personally. I don't know how I felt about Evelyn Hugo. I respected her, but I don't know if I liked her. Yeah, 4.5 stars. Next I read 11 Other Words. I really want to reread this because I liked it, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I didn't like it as much as I should have. Like, I feel like the time I read it wasn't right, or I just like was trying to get through it, or I just like didn't care. But I feel like now I would care more, so I feel like I may reread it this year. It was so sweet and cute. It was a second chance romance, also friends to lovers. I really think I would like it more if I read it a second time. I think I kind of guessed the plot a little bit, and so I was just like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I still gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. Next is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I loved this book. This is one of 4 memoirs that I read this year. It's about love, but all the places that you can find love aside from romantic relationships. It's about being best friends in your 20s, having your friend group, everything you guys go through. I think every girl in her 20s should read this because it's just so insightful and entertaining. It makes you feel grateful for the friendships you have. And yeah, I gave it a 4.5. Next I read From Luke Off With Love by Mariana Zapata, and I gave this 4 stars, but it's one of those 4-star reads that I think about literally all the time. Like, you know, your 5-star reads, like obviously you're gonna think about those, but I think about this book literally so often. I think it came so early in the year that I was afraid to give it 5 stars. I don't know if I thought I was giving out too many 5 stars. It was kind of long, but I think about it so often that I want to give it like an honorary 5 stars just because I love it so much. That's From Luke Off With Love. Next is Book Lovers. My sister has this as well. This is the 3rd Emily Henry book, and I've never met an Emily Henry book that I haven't liked. I love the banter. I love when 2 smart book characters have banter. Like, they're both in this business world, they're both like professional, they're intelligent, and when they banter with each other, it's so smart and witty. I love it. I really like the romance, but I also loved like the sister storyline. I don't think it's my favorite of Emily Henry's books, but it was still a 4.5 stars, so she can do no wrong. I am obsessed with her. Next was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This was a big, long book. It got to be a little dramatic in places. I gave this 4.25 stars. Next was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book, and I'm glad that it was, because I feel like people say this one is more mature, or like a better fleshed out version of her books. I don't know. It is very, 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 very sad. It did make me kind of itchy at times. It is very depressing, but everything works out for the good, which I enjoy. I gave it 5 stars. It really had like depth. The characters felt like real people. I really felt bad for the situation that they were in. And yeah, my first Colleen Hoover. Maybe my last, I don't know. Next I read The Cheat Sheet, and again, this is one of those books where I don't know what's wrong with me. I didn't like it as much as I felt like I should like it. It's a friends to lovers. They've been friends for a super long time. He's a professional football player. She's a ballerina. It was very light and fluffy and cute and sweet, but I just didn't care. When they got together, I was just like, okay. Like, it was cute, and I was like, oh, that's nice. But I don't know. I didn't really care about either of them, and I wish I did. Again, maybe this is one I need to reread. Maybe I read it at a wrong time, so it just didn't click with me. I don't know. I give it like 3.75 4 stars. See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon is such a cute YA. Look at this cute pink cover. That alone is enough to bring it up to 4 stars, but I gave it 4.5 stars. This is a 400+ page book, and it did not feel that way. If you watched my last video, you heard my strong feelings on time loop books. This is a book where they time travel. She's stuck in a time loop on, I think it's her first day of college. You'd think like 400+ pages of living the same day over and over would get boring, but it didn't. 4.5 stars. Next could not be a more different book. I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Very spicy, very open door book. This girl falls for her boyfriend's dad. Anything where the romance is controversial and you have to like form an opinion on it, I like, just because it's interesting to me. Even the like explicit scenes felt like important, and like they had a motivation. They didn't just feel like they were there for just to be there. I gave it 4 stars. Next is Love is a Mixtape by Rob Sheffield, which I tabbed. I read this because Harry Styles read this, let's just be honest, but I'm actually really glad I read it. It's very much about love and grief and loss and music. There are so many music references here that it was like a fun little project for me to go and like look up the song he was talking about, or look up the band he was talking about, and like listen to it as he was explaining the situations and stuff. There's a lot of music banter and like 90s banter. It's really hopeful and actually really funny, and I give it 4 stars. Next is The Summer of Broken Rules, which my friend Megan has. This was one of my 5-star reads. I read this in a day. I got butterflies anytime something happened between the main characters. I loved the Martha's Vineyard vibe. I loved the summery stuff. They go into town, they go to this little market, they go to this little ice cream shop. Oh, it's so cute. I love it so much. Then I read The Lifestyle, and this book is about swingers. This married couple decide to go into the swinger life. She meets up with the one that got away, her boyfriend from college, and this was just so dramatic and interesting. Again, any kind of controversialism in a romance. It's one of those where you really don't know where it's gonna go. You don't know how it's gonna end up, but I liked the ending. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. For some reason, I read this before I read The Fine Print, which is the first book. It was just kind of vague. Like, everything was just like, okay, like, yeah, that was good, that was nice, that was cute. But I didn't like love anything about it, you know? So I gave it a 3.75. Then I read Mind Games by Shanna Silver, and this is one of those, it's like an honorary 5 stars in my mind because I think about it all the time. This is like a YA sci-fi romance. It is very science fiction-y. There are lots of technology and computer terms, some that went right over my head. If you've ever played a Nancy Drew game, it's kind of like a Nancy Drew game became a sci-fi book. I'm so sorry if you can hear those birds. They're so loud. There is a big kind of plot twist ending. I think about this book far too often. and I gave it 4.75 stars, even though it should be like an honorary 5 stars. Then I forgot, I did read another Colleen Hoover. I read Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. This is her like more YA book. Of course, because it's a Colleen Hoover book, there's like this big, sad, terrible plot twist. And it takes place in Galveston, which I am biased to. And I love Galveston. It holds a special place in my heart. So I gave it 4.5. Then we have Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. You probably know like The Deal, The Chase, The Mistake, all that by Elle Kennedy. This book was good. It just kind of fell flat. Again, it was one of those where like good things were happening and like I enjoyed the things that were happening. I was entertained, but then I was just kind of like, okay, it's over now. It was not really a summary read. It takes place over like a year, and so you kind of experience all of the seasons or multiple of the seasons at least. I remember feeling like the ending was rushed, so maybe that's also why I was like, okay, cool, it's over. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next I read Aversion, which is just a little novella, sci-fi, fantasy, romance, young adult. But I was in a time where I wanted to read sci-fi stuff after I read Mind Games. I really wanted to read sci-fi stuff. So I found this. I don't remember a lot about the plot. I remember that people were like out to get her because of her gift. And she has a love interest. I remember that much. I do remember that I liked it. I just, because it was a novella and everything happened so quickly, it literally was 132 pages. So everything happened within the 132 pages. So it was really fast. But for only being 132 pages, I really liked it. And I gave it 4 stars. Next was another Christina Lauren. This was just the year of Christina Lauren, I guess. I read Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. The main character, Hazel, she is very quirky. I think she's one of those characters that some people don't like. Like, she's very polarizing. You either love her or you hate her. I liked her. I thought she was so cute. It was fun. It was funny. And I gave it 4.25 stars. Then I read, I don't even want to talk about this book. It made me so angry. If you want to know my feelings about it, I wrote a scathing Goodreads review, and I'm not someone who writes like super long, harsh, critical reviews, which this one wasn't that bad. I struggled with this one, but I ended up rating it 3 stars. I could probably move it up to like 3.25 or 3.5. It wasn't that bad, but it felt like reading 3 different books. And the first book was okay, the second book was amazing, and the last book was terrible. It ruined everything. I honestly don't even remember like the setup of it. Like, I don't remember who the main characters are to each other, because I just remember how angry I was at the ending and how long it dragged on. I don't want to rip it down too harshly because it wasn't like the worst book I ever read. I obviously finished it. The middle was so good that I hate that it was fumbled, but whatever. 3 stars. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Again, it's one of those that I feel like I should have liked it more than I did. I feel like it should be a 5 star, but I rated it 4.25. It was very just like precious. It was very precious. I enjoyed it. I did really like the movie connections and like the music themes and stuff. I think that always adds to a book, and so I really liked that about it. You've Reached Sam by Justin Tao. This is another like honorary 5 stars that I think about all the time, but it's a 4.75. It's one of those where you struggle with the main character because she's doing things that make you angry, but she's grieving, and so you literally can't be like, oh, why is she doing this, or I wouldn't do that, because like she's going through such a unique and difficult situation. She feels like her life, like all her plans are just destroyed now because her boyfriend died. But it was written so pretty. I want to eat the writing. Like, it is delicious. Next we had A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It's a YA like thriller mystery. It was kind of dark. All these YA dark themes, not a spoiler, but like of like drugs and murder. I don't really think I have any desire to read the sequels, but you know, never say never. A little subplot romance was cute. This was just a little fast-paced, cozy read, and I gave it 4 stars. The next 3 books are dark, controversial romances by Jennifer Hartman, because I read the first one and then I got on a kick with her and I wanted to read everything she's ever written. So this first one is Lotus. This was recommended by Steph Borer on her YouTube channel. It is about these childhood friends. It was this girl and these 2 brothers, and one of the brothers gets kidnapped and he's been missing for years and years and years. Well, finally he escapes his kidnapper and he shows back up, and obviously he is like traumatized. He forms a connection with the childhood friend, the girl. I called this a 5-ish stars. Kidnapped character, there were like some inconsistencies, but I'm like, I've never been kidnapped for like 20 years, so who's to say that that's not how that person would behave? So it is dark, but yeah, I would say like 5-ish stars. And then the next Jennifer Hartman book I read, Still Beating, this one is even more dark and controversial. I really can't even recommend this because it was so cringeworthy. Like, not that it was bad, but it was just like disturbing. Like, there are some dark themes. This girl gets kidnapped with her brother-in-law, or her soon-to-be brother-in-law, her sister's fiance, and they are put through the most terrible things in this kidnapping scenario. Well, they end up getting out, and after that, it just shows their journey through like getting over this trauma, and they're the only two people that understand because they were in it together. They're just like changed people, and they keep depending on each other, but they need to like get better themselves. It is just so deeply emotional, and it's again a super controversial, dark type of romance because you're like, I shouldn't be rooting for these people because this is terrible, but you know, they only have each other. Again, a 5-ish stars. Jennifer Hartman is so good at giving you an impossible scenario to root for, but making you want to root for it because you just want the best for these people. And last, I read June 1st. This one just had a lot of really sad things in it that I feel like almost didn't need to be there. Like, she just like, what else can I do to just make this the saddest book ever? It's one of those scenarios where you're like, I want you to be happy, but what is going on? This one is only a 4 stars for me because there was just so much going on that I was like, I can't comprehend this. I need to check out. Next, I read From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And this took me forever to read. I had to keep looking up Goodreads reviews and not spoiling it for myself, but finding people who are like, okay, yes, like it's slow in the beginning, but you have to get through the world building, you have to get through like the plot explanation, and then it gets so good. And I'm glad I listened to them because it actually really did get so good. I have yet to read the sequel, and I really want to because I feel like this is where stuff is gonna finally start like picking up and really happening. This is so difficult to explain unless you've read it, so I don't really know how to explain it, but basically our main girl, she is the maiden, and she is going to like ascend, and upon her ascension, I'm gonna stop talking. It's one of those books that you just have to read. Like, the whole first book is like the synopsis for the series. I gave this 4 stars. Then I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is one that has been blowing up kind of recently. Anything that is a hockey or an ice skating romance book is gonna have me. So this is, the guy's a hockey player, the girl is a figure skater. It's just one of those books, like there's a plot, but it's more so following the characters, and I really liked their romance. They communicated so well, very realistic and wholesome. I gave this 4.5 stars. Then I reread The Hunger Games. You don't need to know the plot of The Hunger Games. You already know the plot of The Hunger Games, and you know it's a great book, so I don't need to tell you that I rated it 5 stars for a second time. Then I read a tiny little romance novella called Speak Your Truth. It was fine for what it was. It was kind of insta-love, which it had to be because it was super short. It had a good message. It was a little cheesy, but it was cute. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read The Fourth Time Charm, and I did not like this book. Honestly, this may be my fault. This is like the 4th book in a series, and for some reason I just jumped right in and wanted to read that. I think it's because it was Friends to Lovers and I was wanting to read Friends to Lovers books. I did not like the writing style. She used a lot of similes and metaphors and like sports metaphors, and like, I don't know, they were just too on the nose for me. So yeah, I also gave that 3 stars. Then my entire year changed when I discovered the Addicted to You series. Haley Pham has talked about this before, Steph Borer has talked about this before, and for some reason I never picked it up, but I'm glad I did now because this is my favorite series probably ever, and I'm not even done with it yet. There's a whole reading order where you read like the Addicted series and the Calloway Sisters series intertwined, but this is the first book out of any of it, out of the Addicted series, and It is about these two best friends. They have been fake dating for a while to hide their addictions from their families. The guy is an alcoholic and the girl is a sex addict. This made me see addiction in a whole new light. It gives such an insight to the struggles of addiction and the struggles of like people judging you for it. And they both just feel so guilty and so shameful all the time. It's just them going through their addictions and trying to like live with them. It's an emotional roller coaster. But I feel, especially after going through the other books, which we'll get to, but I feel like they're real people. I want nothing but the best for them. I'm literally rooting for them so hard. I want them to be able to overcome these things. This was 5 stars. Then I read The Family Game. It was a mystery thriller. This girl gets engaged to her boyfriend, and he is the son of like this super wealthy family, like a super well-known family, and he's constantly warning her about the family and warning her about meeting them. And this was just like a really kooky, tense book. It's one of those where like the family does stuff and you're like, are you people for real? There's a big plot twist in the end, obviously. I give it 4 stars. Then I read the second book in the Addicted series. It's like Addicted 2.5. It's like a little like half book in the series. It bridges the gap. I can't obviously say much about it without spoiling Addicted to You, but it is again the main couple still struggling with their addictions. But this one's more hopeful because they're like getting help now and stuff. And I like this one a lot. I gave it 4.5 just because it's a little shorter. It bridges between this book and the next book. That was Ricochet. I don't know, I mean you can see it, but I don't know if I said that. Then I read the next Addicted book because I could not stop. I read Addicted for Now. Again, I can't say much, but this one's still about the main couple, Lily and Lo. But this one is so action-packed. There's so much going on. There are scandals. They're still trying to hide things. They're still trying to deal with their addiction. But this one, I really think this is my favorite in the series so far. It is so good. So much happens. It is, again, an emotional roller coaster. This is where you start learning more about the other characters, like the other people in the found family, like her sisters and stuff. It's really good. 5 stars. Then yet another book I can't really talk about, Charm, which is the 5th book in the Crave series. It's a sequel, but also a prequel. And so it has to like explain stuff from the other books, but it's also setting up for the next book that comes out this year. So it was a lot of information and kind of world building, but it was also a sequel, so it had its own story to tell. And yeah, so that made it kind of a lot, but it was so good. I can't say anything because it'll spoil anything I say, will spoil everything. But just know that it was great and I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Okay, then I read, this starts off the Calloway Sisters series, which starts intertwining with the Addicted series. This is Kiss the Sky. This is about our main girl from the Addicted series, her older sister. It's her love story, but again, we see all the characters. I can't say anything without spoiling anything, but I will say they are filming for a reality TV show. And yeah, that's all you need to know. That gives you all the information about how much drama and scandal there's going to be. But it was really cute. I enjoyed seeing her point of view. She's super smart, and so is her love interest. And they just have like really intelligent talks, and they're like very emotionally intelligent with each other. I give it 4.5. Then I swear after this, I'm done talking about the Addicted / Calloway Sister series, but this is Hot House Flower. It is about the youngest Calloway sister and her love interest. I really like her. I think she's a great character, so it was interesting to like see her and see what she's thought about everything that's happened in the past however many books. You still are getting like lots of time with all the characters who are in the little found family. Really good. 4.5. And now I'm done talking about the Addicted series for now. Then I only got to one Christmas book, but this was a great one to get to, Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogel. This book, first off, it was my 50th book of the year. Woo! This book is so quirky. It is so funky and weird and random. I don't think it's for everyone. At first, I was like, whoa, I don't know if I can keep reading this. Like, there's just so many weird, random, funny things happening. But once you take it for what it is so cute. This girl, she's a social media person, but she's made like so many bad decisions. And she's like lost all her money and she's lying to her family. Anyway, she somehow conjures up the holiday spirit. And this is a romance, so obviously they fall in love, but he's gonna leave once her spirit fills up. It is really cute. It's like her bonding with her family again and her learning to become a good person and all the Christmas things. I gave it like a 4.5, 4.75, but it is so cute. And honestly, it unexpectedly made me cry. And then finally, last, but definitely not least, we have Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, the Matthew Perry memoir. I knew this was going to be funny because he's hilarious, and I knew it was going to be sad because he has had a long, difficult journey. But it was so funny and it was so sad. Honestly though, like, this was a perfect memoir. Like, it had everything. It was informative, it was insightful, it was heartbreaking, it was funny, it was bittersweet, it was hopeful, it was inspiring. I loved it. I think it was so important for him to get his story out and truly let people know what he's gone through and what it is like to struggle with addiction, because he struggled with everything from alcohol to opiates. And he is just such a sweet, pure soul. I'm so proud of his journey. It's so weird to this man who I don't know. I'm like, I'm so proud of his journey, but I am. Yeah, definitely if you're a Friends fan or a Matthew Perry fan, you have to read it, but I think really anybody could read it and enjoy it. It's just endlessly entertaining and heartbreaking. Obviously, I gave that 5 stars. Okay, the lighting has changed so many times because this has taken me forever to film. I had fun going through and recapping everything. I forgot some of the stuff I read or even what they were about if I didn't enjoy them. That was my reading year. My goal for next year is 60 books. I don't know if we'll get to that. I don't know if I want to get to that. I think 50 is a good number for me. I don't know if I want to read more than like 50-ish books because I think this was enough. But yeah, I already have countless books I want to get to. I can't wait to read my first book of the year. If you want to keep up with all my reading, you can follow me on Goodreads, you can follow me on StoryGraph, you can follow my Bookstagram down below. So I will see you in my next book video. Thank you for watching. Bye!